Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Spiritual Spotlight series. Today, I am joined by Maria Aparicio. She is a 5D intuitive mentor. She's a spiritual teacher and healer. She specializes working with spiritual entrepreneurs, which I think is amazing because how many people really want to touch into a spiritual entrepreneur self and maybe just don't quite know how to get on that path. Thank you so much, Monica, for joining us today. I'm so happy you're here.
Yay, I'm happy too. Thanks for having me.
So tell us all the listeners, where are you coming live from today?
So I'm in the heart of the coffee producing region of Colombia, South America.
Now you are a former New Yorker that has returned back to Colombia. I kind of would like to ask you, like, you were in New York and now you're in Colombia. How did you kind of get from there to where you are now?
So my mother is Colombian, and I was a teacher for 12 years on the Lower East Side of Manhattan in New York. And when I left teaching in 2012, I started to spend my winters here in Colombia because I really didn't like the cold. So I've been running away from the cold for a long time. And um, the last 2018 and 2019, I pretty much spent half the year here.
Uh-huh.
Like I come and go, I do 2 months and go back to New York and then another 2 months. And so it's like I was spending more time here. And then finally, when 2020 happened, New York started changing so very much, and it just wasn't really where I wanted to be
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
anymore. And then my mom's elderly, and I thought I was actually very depressed, like I was super isolated.
Yeah.
It was just like the time,
Yeah.
lost a lot of friends. And one day I just literally heard the words, leave now. So 2 weeks later, I packed up, I broke my lease, I sold stuff, gave away a lot of it, and I came here. I've been living here ever since.
And I want to ask you, when you arrived in Colombia and you were there full time and you moved, did you feel that sense of depression and everything leave you?
Not right away, because leaving New York was hard for me, because when I left, I felt like I had reached this peak in my life and in my business, and it was like I had to. It wasn't like I didn't feel like my decision, which is weird. I just felt like it was forced. Like, oh man, like there's nothing here for me in New York, and I just felt like I had worked so hard to get to where I was at the time.
Right.
So it took a little while. I kind
Yeah.
of struggled, with it for a bit.
But I have to say, like, I give you so much. That's just so amazing. The fact that you were able to kind of listen to your intuition and be like, okay, like, I know that something needs to change and something needs to give. And then it sounds like you followed kind of like your higher self. And it was like, all right. And it may made you feel uncomfortable, but you still leapt and you still went. And that's just so impressive and amazing.
Yeah, I guess it's a character quality. It's just something that's innate in me. Like I have done that many times in my life where it felt uncomfortable, but I just wasn't meant to be in that situation. Usually, like, with my job and with relationships, and
Mhm.
I'm just used to that voice. I know I'm clairaudient, and
Right.
when I hear the voice, I pay attention.
Nice. So take us
Yeah.
back. Have you always been clairaudient or having, more intuitive skills and abilities? Has that always been since childhood or is that something you grew into?
I so part of the answer to that question is that we're all
Yes.
intuitive, psychic, and we all have spiritual gifts. Are we aware of them? No. I
Mhm.
wasn't always aware of them, but I think that I was always very curious and aware of my curiosity.
Nice.
Like, I mean, like I was reading books on Edgar Casey when I was like in the seventh grade, and
Okay, okay.
like,
That is
like
I mean, Edgar Casey, he's like that's impressive in the seventh grade to be called to lead, like learn from that. That's pretty cool.
I was just always curious. My mom was the one that actually put me on this path. Like she was very curious.
Yeah.
So I think that she kind of introduced me and like sparked something in me. And it's very interesting because my mom's she's much older than I am. She's 40 years older than I am. And she was actually a nun in when she was a teen here in Colombia. So she comes from a very like old school Catholic, and yet she was so open-minded and so curious about like, I guess they were calling it the new age,
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
That's amazing. So how now, so did your mom, obviously she left being a nun. How did she
yeah.
kind of transition out of that?
So from my understanding, she got really sick.
Oh,
She got an ulcer and almost died. And so once you can't be an active participating member of the community, then
yeah.
it's like you can't really be there.
Uh-huh.
So I think she was like in like early 20s when she left, and she had a whole life here in Colombia, and then she migrated to New York, I
Oh,
think when she was like early 30s,
and had a completely different life.
and then had a totally different life and had me, and
That's a
and she moved
so
back.
your mom, was she supportive of you to be open to your spiritual gifts?
Yes, it's interesting. I feel like I went to Catholic school. I went
Uh-huh.
to Catholic school my whole life until I got to college.
Right.
So it was like, I went through all of the sacraments, I guess.
Uh-huh.
But when I got to college, I was like, um, I'm not Catholic. Like this doesn't align with a lot of my values. My
Right.
mind had opened. I'd
Yeah.
met all different kinds of people. I got lots of gay friends. I started
Yeah.
experimenting with drugs. I was like, that like goes totally against this. I'm like, I'm not Catholic. And I just started exploring other religions, and I think that that's been a bit of a thorn in my mom's side. But she knows that I'm really spiritual, like
Right.
I've always had a very deeply spiritual life,
Uh-huh.
like always since I was young. I feel like I've had so many like direct connections to God, like where I feel the actual presence of God, like with me there, like looking at me or just like surrounding me. And
I love
I
that.
don't know. I know maybe that's not normal or like usual, but um, I think that we have a common ground. We have a common language, my mom and I.
I love that. It's interesting because I myself also went to Catholic school, even though I was raised as a Southern Baptist. I moved from Georgia to Ohio and I went to a Catholic school, and I used to get in trouble all the time because they would say, "Oh, you're a sinner." And I'm like, "I am not a sinner. I do not believe in that. I do not believe in that. I don't believe in
Yeah.
that." I used to get in so much trouble. I can't even tell you. But
Wow.
you gotta stay true to your beliefs, right?
Yeah.
So as you went into college, did you find then that more of your spiritual gifts, like you said, everyone is born with the spiritual gifts, and whether or not they want to open them up or not, when did your gifts started to open up?
That's such a good question. I think that I remember being in high school actually and just having a lot of premonition dreams
Nice.
of things that would then happen, but I
Nice.
wasn't, there were always things that were unpleasant,
Mhm.
like almost like warnings. Then, when I got to college, I really got into a very heavy period of experimentation.
Yeah.
Like I was just experimenting left and right with all types of things. And I think that I really do believe that a lot of young people get into experimenting really because they're just on the quest to understand themselves and
Right.
to find themselves. So I think that I was doing that. I wasn't aware of it.
Mhm.
I think that when I really started to like tap in, um, it was probably, I don't know, I feel like I've had little instances here and there
Yeah.
um, throughout my whole entire life, but where I could say, oh, I'm intuitive,
Right.
probably like, I don't know, maybe this is 2000 and pretty much almost 2023. I would say like 15 years ago, 17 years ago, where I was like, wait a minute, there's something happening here, or like I felt that I could direct or be intentional about
Yeah.
this, these gifts or these abilities, and just being able to like use them to direct my life in
Nice.
a way that felt good, that felt like my creation. Like, this is
Mhm.
what I want to experience in my life.
And then how did you lead that into being a 5D intuitive mentor? And if you can please tell the listeners what exactly is a 5D intuitive mentor?
So I'm a mentor, I'm a guide for
Yeah.
people. I am using my intuitive gifts. And the 5D part really just comes from this place of breaking out of this just old paradigm of this old world, this three-dimensional matrix plane where, we think we should do something in order to get somewhere, the ideas that we have about success, even running your own business. I find that you fall into looking at what other people are doing or following a set of guidelines. So it's really just like breaking free
Yeah.
into like a higher state of consciousness or awareness about how you're choosing to live your life and how you're choosing to have a vocation, and really just creating your own reality. So I think that that's how I would I'm piecing it together. That's what I would say, how I consider myself to be a 5D intuitive mentor. It's been a journey,
Yeah.
and I think that it's been a personal one.
Hmm.
I got into teaching because I loved guiding. I loved being with kids, and I loved creating with them. I was an art teacher, and it was awesome
Yeah.
until I changed. I got married and got divorced in the process. I was drinking very heavily. I became sober for 5 years. I became highly sensitive. I got more into my spirituality. Um I was when I finally got so sensitive while I was teaching, walking into the high school building became very jarring for me
Yeah.
because it was so noisy, and I just became just super sensitive. I wasn't numbing out. I was present.
Right.
And so I that kind of it was hard. The last 5 years were very difficult because like my soul had outgrown the environment, and I wanted to get out. I
Yeah.
just didn't know exactly what. And that kind of, at the same time I was going through this process of changing my eating habits. I was awakening, I was like one of like my first layers of awakening, where I was looking for information, re-educating myself. And I remember going to the natural food market because I was eating mostly vegetarian, mostly organic. And that's where I discovered a pamphlet for the Institute of Integrative Nutrition.
Ooh.
So went home, I read it from, front to the cup, front to back, and I was like, I'm enrolling. And, that's what I said before in the beginning of this, is that I think that one of the gifts that I've been given in
Hmm.
life is just like, okay, like taking fast action, like, okay,
Yeah.
like, you know, I'm I'm gonna decide, I'm gonna
Yeah.
do this, or like I heard something, I'm gonna go with it. And so I became a holistic health coach, and that was really the beginning of this journey.
Wow.
So I love to study, I love to learn. Um, I that took me on a journey of just learning so many different modalities, breath work and Reiki, and here I am, come full circle. So
And then what you do with is that you work with leaders and spiritual entrepreneurs, and you do help them focus to, like you said, define and live their life purpose through the first healing their past, then extracting the wisdom left behind from their life experience. So I like the fact that you dig in first and kind of heal what's going on within, and then you kind of set people on the path of success and finding what's their true mission, what's their true voice. Tell us a little bit about that experience.
so from just all the experiences that I've had and then coming out, and I think that, as I was mentioning, leaving New York was so hard for me because that was like a peak of like a height in my life, which I experienced directly after of one of the lowest times in my life. Like I was homeless for 18 months.
Oh my God.
I had a breakup, went into a temporary living situation where there was mold, had to leave that place from one night to the next, and lived out of a roller suitcase and
Wow.
was super sick, lost everything, you
Wow.
know. And so, I was down to like 20K, I don't know what like poverty level income in
Right.
2017.
Yeah.
And so there was like this catapulting that happened for me. And it happened because I just really like integrated, like, wait, like what's going on? Like what's happening? This is trauma.
Right. It's
This is
severe
severe
trauma.
trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it was just being so aware. Like I wasn't pushing it. I wasn't getting high or getting drunk or like, whatever people do to numb out. Like I was really there for it. And it was just like the process of like lifting myself up. And so what I know is that when you can really process and like fully integrate, because we go through things, we all go through traumas and
Right.
crisis. We don't always process it correctly or fully.
Right.
It's like we will a piece of it, and then it's like, okay, I got to keep going. Life has to keep going.
Right. Right.
And, but when you really take the time to just like, okay, like, let me go deep, let me extract this from the root,
Right.
that what we actually find are just, we find gold. It's like, if you really think about like, where do you find treasure? It's always in like a cave, like in like the inner
Right.
earth, like the
Yeah.
gems, the pearl, the baby, it's in this dark womb. So when you can see it that way, then you really integrate it. Then it becomes your power. It's not a source of
Right.
pain anymore.
Right.
Then it becomes your wisdom,
Yeah.
and when you can understand that, and then you can like organize it in a way where you can then show someone who might be going through a similar situation,
Right.
this is how you can walk yourself out, then it also becomes such a unique way to lead.
Mm.
It becomes a very unique method, your own process. Like you could really create a business, even if it's just like a project that you want to do or something that you want to do with your family. It just gives you that positioning of power, you
That,
know?
I mean, that is just what you just said was so profound. Like I know it sounds like simple maybe for some people, but it's just I do feel like as we are going through a healing journey, we do kind of bypass certain pieces, that we truly need to dig in and go down deep in and pull it out, like you said, extract it out and integrate it. Like, oh my goodness. I'm gonna have to get some sessions with you. I mean, it just sounds so profound, like, but it's just, healing can be easy, but we have to be willing to kind of go through these experiences and dig down deep. And you went through some heavy trauma to be homeless.
Yes.
I mean, I'm sorry that that's heavy. And the fact that you're a bright, vibrant, spiritual entrepreneur, spiritual thought leader. I mean, I'm amazed. I'm amazed. I'm
Um,
amazed. I have no more questions. Goodbye. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just like, wow, I'm speechless. I mean, and I will say this, one of the things that I truly believe in is that really hard heart hurts really are rocket fuel for our ascension process. We
yeah,
sometimes, and I do have the belief that we kind of choose the experiences before we kind of get on this planet, and we may forget about what those experiences are. But I do
yeah,
feel that we kind of pick these heavy traumas and whatnot that are going to propel us to really getting on our spiritual mission and our purpose.
absolutely. Down to any disease, physical ailment. I mean, the physical body really is it's a portal to your spiritual evolution and awakening, you know?
Absolutely. I
Yeah,
really I love the fact, and I know one of the listeners right now, she also was focusing on that too, is her nutrition and like becoming a clearer channel and really cutting out things that, maybe wasn't good for her soul. And it sounds like that was
yeah.
kind of what you went through as well.
Yeah, it's been an ongoing process. I mean, this year, 2022, I was sick, from the beginning of the year till about mid-May.
Yeah.
Like, and I just got this cold that's lasted about 2 weeks, but it was so interesting because it happened during Scorpio season during like this time of the eclipses. And
Yeah.
I was telling a friend earlier, I feel like I went to another, like to the underworld, like I was sleeping a lot. I was having conversations with my ancestors. Even though I'm not physically fully well, I feel like I've emerged with like information that
Yeah.
I can use, as I've been processing other things. So,
Absolutely. And I want to say that there is also like I do feel like our body does go through kind of a transformational process, where we may have to go through an illness or something. And because, we're not, sometimes I feel like as a physical body, we're a soul inside of a physical body. Our soul is always out doing work and trying to upgrade and integrate and pull things in. Sometimes our physical body may not quite catch up with what our soul is doing.
hmm.
Throws you down. Look at her face.
Yeah, yeah, and I think, and also the other way around too. Like, I don't think that,
Absolutely. Yes, you're
Mhm.
right. You're right. You're right.
Yeah, like like for example, like going through like a rape for, like it's a physical trauma to the body.
Yes.
It'll take a while for the mind
To
or
catch
like,
up to it.
and also like the spiritual aspect to be like, okay, wait, what happened? You
That is a
know?
really good point. And I also, that's a really good point because it's like we do have these energetic layers, but part of our energetic layer is actually our physical body. And I do think sometimes we kind of forget about our, when we first start to awaken, we all want to be up and above and connecting with source and angels and our guides and everything like that. But like you said, you were down in the underworld, which perhaps is, with the elementals and it's with the earth and it's with, are the different realms. And sometimes, I mean, even myself, I'm always like, Rachel, you got to root, you got to ground, you got to pull yourself down, you got to connect with the earth so your body is connected with the earth. Because I feel sometimes out of proportion. I'm like, the other day,
Yeah.
this is really off topic, other day I looked at myself in the mirror, I'm like, I don't feel like I'm alive. Like it was the weirdest feeling I had with my physical body. And I had to be like, what is going on? It was such an odd feeling. And I was like, am I alive? Like and I wasn't, guys, I was sober. I was at work. I was having a moment. Like it was such a weird feeling. But I mean, maybe I need to also tap in and be like, okay, well, what was that, Rachel?
Yeah.
It's not a mental illness. So I do want to talk to you a little bit. Can you tell us a little bit about you do have an event coming up and it's returning from the dark night of the soul. Can you tell us all about what that is, what that entails? How can we sign up for it?
Yeah. So it's a 4-day virtual retreat, and it's centered around healing and also business coaching for anyone that either has a business or wants to have a business, or even if you're just like playing with the idea of wanting to create something in the world that's yours. And I basically walk you through doing reviews so that you can really connect in where there might be what's actually the origin of a pattern that you might be experiencing in your life. And this is what I usually say to people is that when you have repeated patterns that don't feel good,
Mm,
where you feel like a sense of loss of power,
mm,
that's usually connected with what I call the soul root reason, or this point of origin. And it's kind of like an energetic stamp. It's where you had something happen that was traumatizing, and it could have been a big thing, or it could have been something more subtle, like
mhm.
losing a job, or um, just something in childhood that you didn't have the logical capacity to
Yeah.
understand at the time.
Mhm.
So we all have these things, and so I walk you through ways of reviewing and finding, like pinpointing. Let me
Look
just,
at that cat.
this is Lola.
Okay, can I just tell you that Lola looks just like my cat? I'm really not kidding. We have a white and black cat, Frank the Tank, and then we have a black and white cat, Simba.
Oh,
They're brothers. Go ahead.
well, she tries to climb on my tapestry back here. So I don't want her to do that. So I pretty much just guide you through getting clarity about what that might be and unraveling it. And
Oh,
then once you can see it, then I help you to put together your own soul prescription. And that's just a combination of body, mind, and spirit approaches that are very unique to what happened to you and
yeah,
what you feel inclined in the way that you want to, address it.
right,
And then after you've done that process, then we move more into how can we take this information to create something, where you start to shift the energy from
right.
it being like a pain or a source, a frustrating of the source of the frustration in your life now, to it being something that is a strength,
Right.
so it's a power that you could use to create, a business or, like I said, a project or anything that you really want to put out in the world.
Or if maybe it's something you want to focus on personally, maybe you really want to focus
Could
on
be
getting
that too.
healthier, having a clearer diet, exercising.
Yeah.
What prevents you from, getting up and taking a walk every day? Is it because, I
Yeah.
I love that soul prescription. That's pretty cool. And
Yes.
when is this event?
It's December 7th through the 10th.
Nice. And then
Yeah.
people go to your site to sign up for it.
They can go to my website, monica-maria.com, and there's the events page, and you'll find it there, and you can sign up for it.
When I
And it's
post
free.
this interview, I'll make sure to link this event as well with it. What are some other services besides this amazing free masterclass you have coming up? What are some other services if somebody is interested in booking with you that you offer?
So I'm really excited about my latest area of study, which is astrology, life path astrology.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm super fascinated by it. I think it's a master key code of information that we should all know, really,
Yeah,
And so
absolutely.
it's really looking at your natal chart,
Mhm.
which is, I like to say, it's a capture of the energy, physical, actual, the stars and the planets that were physically there. But I say it's a capture of energy because it's the relationship between you, your time of birth and place of birth, and the stars and the placements of the sun and the moon. So that, and it's like they're speaking to each other. And so there's information that's encoded in that chart. And so for anyone that just wants to have more clarity around their life path, how does that play into a vocation? What
Right.
are karmas and challenges that are maybe a theme in your life, and how can you actually resolve them
Right.
so that you can access your blessings and your prosperity and your abundance?
I love
And it's usually through a way of service. So life path astrology, I actually have a special now for that I'm going to add to my site. And I also, for people that just want to focus on like doing this deep healing work, I do a process called the soul remembrance process. So it's a type of regression that I developed that combines breath work with visualization, with energy medicine, um, and with, I guess I'll say, I'm not a hypnotist, but it's like hypnosis.
right.
Um, and so the idea is that we together really unravel. You kind of like drop into a place of subconscious,
Mhm.
and we start to shift the energy around the sole reason, the thing that's causing the frustration.
Yeah.
So that's a 21-day program. And then for people that want to actually, feel like, hey, I want to have a business.
Yeah.
Um, I have my signature training is called Freedom Frequency. So it's a 12-week training that's self-guided and also has life coaching calls. And again, the idea is just to get super clear as to your life journey and
Mhm.
like, what is it, what wisdom are you here to teach other people?
So
So
almost uncovering like what is it your soul's mission here and how can you get clear on it and how can you move forward with that?
yeah, how can you start knowing who you're meant to help and guide, and what's an offer that you would put together, and then start to offer it, start to sell it.
would you help them kind of put together that offer and then like, oh, I love that. And then almost
Yeah.
it's almost like I would imagine you probably give them the confidence to launch it and then you cheer them on.
Yeah, that program is so the four pillars of that program, and of most of my work, it's personal healing, personal expression, business development through community building.
Wow, that's so cool. What are some of the I so we're gonna jump topics here for a second. What are
Okay.
some of the spiritual tools that you like to use? Like, do you like using crystals, oils? What do you like?
I love crystals. But one of the first always is breath work.
Oh,
Breath,
okay.
yeah, because it's so simple, it's readily available. You don't have to buy anything. It's
Yeah.
just connecting to your own source of life. So breath work is like my top number one. And it varies, like I love my oracle cards. I have the Osho. I don't know if you have this one, the Osho Zen Tarot.
I don't know if I have
Yeah,
that one. I'm gonna
it's
write
pretty
that down.
magical. Yeah, I love that one.
Okay, I have a
Um,
problem, so I will be getting that.
yeah. And then the chakra system is one that
Oh,
I always fall back on because there's so many layers to it. I
yes.
don't think people really know like how much information you can get from really studying the chakra system, and it really teaches you how to understand your own energy and maneuver it and mold it and use it to shape your life. So I think those are my top two, actually:
Breath
breath work and
chakra
the
system.
chakra system.
Do you have any books that you would recommend in learning more about the chakra system?
No, I actually, funny enough, I don't have a one book on the
I
chakras.
know I have like 17.
I know you have a lot of books. I have this tool that I really like. It's like a little.
I'm already excited. I'm like,
I'll put it
"Woo!"
here. I
Oh, okay. I would love that. That is amazing. Oh,
it's
Rainbow Chakra Centers. Look at that. I
it's
am
you. Let me see if there's a website here. If you type it into like
I
Amazon,
could
you
probably
can
find it.
find it. Inner Light Resources, innerlightresources.com.
I'm trying to
And
think.
it has a back.
Oh my gosh, that I love that it's like a cheat sheet. Like it's perfect.
Yeah,
That's perfect. That's all
and
you
it's
need.
yeah, it's laminated. So like I still will get stuff and I'm like, oh, really? Okay. Like it does musical notes and foods, and like
Oh, that's
it
so
also
cool.
does they're in like the seas or they're out of balance. Yeah.
I'm trying to look. I have
It's funny. This was the original
Oh, look
one.
how cute
It was
that
a wallet sized one,
is. It's like a baby. It's like a
but it
baby
started to
one.
break apart.
I love that.
Yeah. So I was like, wait a minute, let me get a new one.
That
Found
is
a big
so,
one.
oh my gosh, I love that.
So
And what are some of your favorite crystals? I don't know why, but I want to ask you, what are some of your favorite types of crystals that you like to
that's
use?
really hard. I don't know. Um, I know this is not a crystal, but I'm pretty obsessed with it.
It's okay.
It's a little dirty. I haven't cleaned it, but it's this really cool, like glass pyramid.
I
And
love that. Do you do like meditations with that? What do you do with that?
I feel like I magnify energy. Like I'll put money underneath it,
Nice.
and
It almost looks like a vortex, like you put stuff in it,
yeah,
it's like
yeah. And I have an emerald that I tend to wear almost every day. So I guess I'll say the emerald. I can't say I have a favorite crystal. Well, you know what? Black tourmaline lately, I feel like
oh
is
yes.
a good crystal to have with all the
And
craziness of the world. It's good to have some
I
protection.
actually have
So,
black tourmaline gridded in my office around my office doors at
nice.
work. And then I don't have it in here anymore because I took it down, but I have black tourmaline in a lot of places. But I find myself, and I'm sure you're probably the same way. I'll pick up a crystal and then I'll pick up another crystal and then I'll pick up another crystal. As I'm
Nice.
talking to you, I've been like holding one, move on to the next. What energy do I need right now? Okay, Rachel, focus, fluorite. Okay.
Well, I will say this. a crystal that's very special to me, and they're not that common,
Mhm.
is this is one of the first crystals I got when I got into crystals in 2007. My Lemurian seed.
Oh, you mean mine too?
Oh, that's a Lemurian seed. That's beautiful.
It's a big one. It's a
That's a
honker.
big one.
It's a big one. Oh.
You know, mine looks like that, but it's
It,
smaller. It's
you know,
like this.
I actually have quite a few of these. I
Ah,
really like to meditate with them
yeah.
and kind of try to gather in some. So let me ask you this: do you connect with that culture?
Yes. Well, definitely lived on Lemuria.
Oh, I love that. Do you
Yeah.
connect with Atlantis then?
Did I what?
Do you connect with Atlantis then?
Not as much as Lemuria.
Do you can let me ask you this. Do you connect with Telos and Mount
Not
Shasta?
so much.
He's like,
No.
stop asking me these questions.
No. No, I mean, I happen to know I'm my soul originates in the Lyran star system
Nice.
in Vega.
How did you know that?
Um, I was I was living with a friend who had this really cool book, who lent it to me, and it had all the different
Darcy.
cultures.
Okay.
Yeah, the galactic cultures.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I had another friend who gave me a past life regression.
Nice.
And one of my questions was, where do I originate from? And
Nice.
I heard Vega. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, oh, that's in the book. And coincidentally, about 2 months later, I went with a friend out east in New York. So there was not that much illumination in the sky. We were looking up at the sky. And I kept seeing a star twinkle above my head. And I just was like, oh, I'd love to know what I'm looking at. And I was like, oh, let me download an app. So I'm just playing with the phone, I'm pointing it up at the sky when all of a sudden I lock into the star that was twinkling at me,
Yeah.
and it was Vega. So, and it happens often, like I'll look up at the sky, it twinkles. I'm like, oh, hey, you know.
Do you ever have a longing to go back there?
I have in the past, and honestly, sometimes I'm like, I'm just done. Like, please get me off this planet. But lately it's weird. I haven't felt that. I actually feel very rooted in that I'm here for I'm on a mission.
Yeah.
I'm on a mission, and I accept it, even though sometimes it's hard.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like, what's
But
going
no,
on?
but no, I mean, it sounds like you're fully rooted, like you said, in your mission, and you know this is what you're meant to do. And I just think that's phenomenal. What advice would you give to anyone that is listening that may be going through a spiritual awakening? What would you recommend, or any advice that you would give to somebody who maybe is like, oh, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed by all of this?
Hmm. Find community, find people that where you feel safe, where you can say whatever,
Yeah.
where you can express, where you can ask questions, where you can just feel like you're not alone. I think that's the most important thing.
Mm.
And don't fight it. Don't fight your awakening, because it'll make it harder.
So true.
Yeah.
Don't fight it. Anything else that you would like to share to the listeners before we wrap up this amazing interview?
I don't know. I've had so much fun talking to you.
I
I
know. I'm just like, can it be December already? Because I really wanted to take this class. I mean, it just sounds phenomenal. I don't want to speed up time, but
well, time is moving by so fast.
it really is. And then I'm like, Rachel, disconnect from the time vortex, disconnect from the time matrix.
I know. I guess if you're vibing, like speaking of community, like let's just find me, let's connect. I'm on Instagram, you can find me. I answer all of my messages if you start following me there. I tend to do new moon and full moon rituals
Yes,
on there
yes,
live.
she has amazing full moon and new moon rituals on Instagram. They are phenomenal. And what I want to say before we wrap up, I respect the fact that you're willing to speak your truth and you do not hold back. You are not a BSer. You are very authentic with your message. And I respect that tremendously, because some people sugarcoat things and you're like, no, this is me and this is how it is.
Yeah, some people don't like that, but that's their problem, really. And then finally, I actually just set up, since the last time we connected, I set
Yeah.
up a free membership. It's a 5D education portal. I'll
Oh,
send you the link because
yes.
there's three resources. So you already have the link up, I think, for the free healing guide, but I
Okay.
added a masterclass
Nice.
and I also added a new moon planning ritual. So,
Ooh.
and it's free. So for anybody that wants to go get it,
Okay.
you're welcome to.
I'll make sure to link that. I have a lot to link. So, Monica, I want to thank you so much for coming on the Spiritual Spotlight series. You are a wealth of information, and I love that you are boldly living your mission and that you're fully present for anyone that is kind of looking for you as a healer and a mentor. Anyone would be lucky to work with you for sure.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm really grateful for our connection, and thank you for everything that you do and just spreading wisdom and making these beautiful connections.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, everyone. Everyone have a great evening and a great night. And thank you all so much for joining us. And I've got to get to posting some links. So everybody have a great night.
We'll be in touch. Bye.
Definitely. Bye.